The story began with a girl being devoured by numerous monsters of the same kind, and she had already lost hope of surviving. The scene shifted to the past, where a team was discussing whether to pass through a gate leading to another hidden dungeon, though they were still hesitant to enter. Someone mentioned that they should go inside to claim the loot and clear it as if nothing had happened. After all, ignoring free loot in a dungeon was like leaving fries at the bottom of the McDonald's bag, criminal behavior. The leader, Hyon, gave it some thought while they discussed how hunters were risking their lives for barely any pay and considered the dungeon a lucky chance for them all. Hyon agreed to clear it themselves, but a girl stopped him, saying she had a bad feeling about it. Hyon tried to calm her down, pointing out that it was a rare opportunity unlikely to come again, and since everyone else agreed, he questioned why she insisted it was dangerous. He even wondered if she was trying to embarrass him in front of the team. She flinched, insisting she was only worried they might encounter swarms of bugs like in previous dungeons. And let's be real, nobody wants to relive a scene straight out of Indiana Jones' Arachnophobia edition. Hyon told her to come along, reminding her that Choi was their friend and couldn't keep freezing up at the sight of such monsters. He asked if she didn't remember how much trouble she had caused the team before and criticized her by adding that no C-ranked tank would bother sticking with them. At this rate, even an NPC with tutorial armor would have rage quit the party. He questioned whether she really thought she could survive another raid without him. She hesitated as she was pressured to join them, but then admitted to herself that Hyon was right. After all, he had been the one to bring her into the guild without asking anything in return. It was kind of like when someone adds you to their Netflix account without expecting you to pay. Hard to say no after that. Hyon then mentioned that he was her boyfriend, saying he wouldn't have spoken that way if he didn't love her, and asked if she understood where he was coming from. When she thanked him, they all went inside. Hyon asked Joey to take her role as the tank, and she agreed to move forward with her shield. They encountered a swarm of giant monsters, which shocked everyone, and they began fighting without hesitation. Hyon told Choi to handle the monsters and maintain the barrier. She obeyed, but kept thinking that if she failed to hold her ground, the others wouldn't be able to defeat the rest. Though she was struggling, she tried not to panic and held on as long as she could. After a while, they faced an even larger horde and wondered what to do. Choi pushed herself, but she couldn't endure any longer and called for healing, fearing she would collapse. To her despair, she realized the other four were leaving her behind. It was the classic skip intro button moment, except this time they were skipping her entirely. When she called out again, they accused her of failing in her role and not doing her part. Panicked, she tried to escape, but as Hyon was closing the door, another girl told him to wait because Choi was still there. He didn't listen and shut it anyway. Choi begged for them to open it, but they ignored her and left. Abandoned, she ran in another direction, determined to survive at any cost, still hoping they might return for her. It was the same kind of false hope as waiting for a "be right back" text from someone who's already blocked you. She eventually reached a strange tree with bone-like structures, and a lightning orb hovered nearby. There she discovered a ring, and when she wore it, a screen appeared in front of her, identifying it as the parasitic ring of the X-Gray. It looked less like a treasure, and more like something you'd win from a cursed loot box nobody asked for. The ring linked to her and informed her, silently, in a way she could feel rather than hear, that she could not die until the hatching was complete. Then the screen vanished, leaving her bewildered and uncertain how to use the ring. When the monsters attacked her, beating her, she begged for help. Her skin reappeared where she had been struck, and through her tears she pleaded for someone to stop because she did not want to die. The ring made her feel something strange and woke her. She wondered how she had survived. Seeing the monsters still around, she tried to run, but one plunged a spike into her back. Because the hatching was incomplete, she came back to life. It was basically the world's worst auto-respawn system, like Dark Souls on Nightmare mode, but without the "you died" screen giving you closure. Time and again she was stabbed and then restored by the ring. This cycle continued so long that she lost track of how long she had been there. Decades might have passed, she thought, and she feared she might be forced to endure being eaten alive over and over forever. Then she found the sword had given her. Rage at her teammates' betrayal flared up. She remembered that she had resisted coming and had been dragged into the dungeon, and she swore she would kill Hyon. Somehow she managed to seize her sword and began to slaughter the monsters. With each strike, her strength grew, the ring accelerating her recovery so her wounds healed as she fought. Understanding the ring's purpose at last, she laughed brutally and resolved to slaughter them all and to confront Hyan as soon as she could. As she battled the monsters, she was stabbed again, but quickly cut down the creature in return. More kept coming, but the ring healed her wounds, keeping her alive. She wondered why they were all hesitating, then kept slashing at them, exhilarated by the fight. It felt like finally finding the cheat code after hours of rage quitting. She hadn't known that becoming stronger could feel so good. Hungry for more, she wanted every monster crushed beneath her blade. At one point, she struck the ground with such force that a huge number of them were slain at once. At last, she cleared the dungeon. A reward appeared before her, announcing her promotion to A rank. An achievement unlocked popping up in real life, if real life had a cruel sense of humor. She realized how much time had passed in that place, and in her wild state, she even squeezed a monster as if savoring her power. Overjoyed, she thought she could finally leave. Outside, the team was still arguing about leaving Choi behind. One girl questioned how Hyun could have abandoned her when she had been his girlfriend, and he always acted like the boss. Hyun replied that if they had waited, everyone would have died, and she should be thanking him instead. The girl protested, asking if he even heard what he was saying. A boy urged her to drop it, insisting there was no point if they all would have perished inside. Another girl speculated that Nara was upset only because Choi had been a fellow C rank. Nara retorted that they weren't even thinking straight, that none of them deserved their high ranks, and she declared she was done with them. She said she would reveal everything they had done to Choi. The world itself seemed to hold its breath. Hyun only smiled, questioning whether she really believed she could escape a B-rank dungeon as a mere C rank. He told her it would be nearly impossible, and that she needn't be afraid since no one was asking her to abandon anyone, but she had to remain silent about Choi. Suddenly, the dungeon door shattered. Choi stepped out, remarking that none of them had changed, and it had been a long time since they last met. Hyun was stunned and wondered if she truly believed ages had passed, and how she had managed to survive the dungeon alone. Hyun rushed forward and embraced Choi, acting as though he were truly sorry for not helping her, insisting he'd had no other choice but to think of the others. She told him he didn't need to explain. He thanked her for understanding, called her the best, and admitted how glad he was that she was alive. She only stared at him. His eyes fell on her tattered, blood-stained clothes, and though they were shredded, her body bore not a single wound. The sight unsettled him, making him feel that something was terribly off. Another boy placed a hand on Choi's shoulder, praising her for not being angry and saying how glad he was she had made it out alive. He added that now they could finally face the boss together. Choi wondered if they had really been waiting for her this whole time, and thanked them for it. It was the kind of thanks you give when someone finally replies to a text 3 months late. Grateful, but suspiciously so. The boy replied that they couldn't just walk away knowing she was still trapped inside, confessing that he felt guilty. As they continued forward, Choi behaved normally, raising no suspicion. Hyan told himself it was just his imagination. After some time, they came across a deer knuckle. Hyan told everyone to prepare and had them hide behind the trees. He explained their plan. Choi would distract the boss while the others struck it down, just like they always did. When the plan was executed, Choi rushed forward with her shield, but her actions stunned the others. Instead of moving as expected, she drove her shield into the ground, let out a thunderous shout, and drew the deer's attention directly onto herself. The others were stunned and wondered what Choi was thinking as she charged ahead, forcing them to rush after her. The deer knuckle lunged at her, but Hyan told them not to panic since it was only a B-rank monster. Choi blocked its strike with her shield, then suddenly leapt high into the air. The others assumed she was retreating. The boy with the sword worried aloud that if Choi ran away instead of holding the creature back, he would be left to face it. The deer lowered its horns and lunged to kill him, leaving everyone horrified. At that moment, Choi landed directly on the deer, saying that it had really scared her and that she had dodged without thinking. She questioned whether they truly understood what had just happened. The silence that followed wasn't the awe of teamwork. It was the same silence you hear when a plot twist ruins your fan theory in the final episode. She sat on the deer's neck to ride it, making it stumble and throw everyone off balance. Hyun wondered what Choi was doing and if she had lost her mind. She questioned herself about how it appeared she was behaving. The others told her to stop messing around and get off the deer. She thought it looked as if she were simply playing and challenged them to see who could endure the longest. Then she continued to attack them using the deer while they tried to escape. The girl wondered what they should do. Hyon replied that he would support from the back to heal her, while she should take the front to distract the boss. He added that he had a few basic attack skills and would try them as well. The girl was shocked, since she had never tanked a boss monster before. Hyon shouted that they would all be defeated if they did nothing, reminding them that he was the leader. Classic move, when in doubt, yell louder and hope leader privileges come with plot armor. He urged them to listen if they wanted to stay allied, and assured them he would take care of everything else, apart from tanking. He believed they still had a chance to make it out alive. Choi then asked if they were finished talking and demanded they return to the fight. As she rushed to strike, the girl used a guard skill to block, but was instantly defeated and killed by Choi. Only 2 remained. Choi wondered why the deer was so strong, and upon checking its stats, discovered that it was an A-rank creature with a special blessing. She suspected it was because of a hidden item she had obtained, but decided she would think about it later, after killing Hyon. Hyon dodged at a distance and guessed that she might have found a hidden item in the dungeon, which explained the confidence on her face. He bowed his head and apologized for everything he had done, asking her to tell him the reason for her anger so he could make it right. She only called him worthless, saying the only problem was that he was still alive. He was utterly shocked before being crushed under the deer's leg. Choi laughed at it all and jumped down to approach Nara. Nara trembled in fear and begged to be spared. Choi allowed her to live, saying it was only because she had been the only one who tried to stop them from closing the door. She reminded Nara not to forget that human part of herself. In other words, congrats, you passed the world's worst morality test. Your reward is survival. Then, the 2 of them moved forward with the deer following behind to attack, but Choi drew her sword to slash it away. She warned Nara not to speak of this to anyone else, or she already knew what would happen. When they finished explaining everything to Baekdeok, he shouted in frustration, wondering what would happen if the boss's rank had really increased and accusing them of being mere supporters who couldn't even handle their role properly. Like tech support who tells you to try turning it off and on again while your whole system is on fire. Choi acted completely careless, while Nara thought to herself how Choi could remain so calm. She worried that if anyone discovered what had truly happened inside, both of them would be ruined. Baekdeok grew angrier, questioning why the matter had to involve Hyon and how he was supposed to explain it to Hyun's father when the company was already hanging by a thread. Choi casually remarked that the company had already collapsed, yet Baekdeok was still wearing a designer watch. She criticized him further, pointing out that his suit was also a luxury brand and his car must have cost a fortune. Basically roasting him like a broke influencer flexing Gucci while living in a rented studio. She ridiculed him harshly, saying he was spluttering as if it were the end of the world for them, while he was still drowning himself in wealth. Baekdeok, feeling nervous inside, wondered what was wrong with her for daring to talk back instead of quietly standing behind. Suppressing his irritation, he declared that both Choi and Nara were responsible for the mess and should forget about taking days off. They would be working non-stop from then on. He then ordered one of his men to check which dungeons were scheduled for the next day and to assign them immediately. Nara felt it was unfair, but when she voiced it, Baekdeok shouted at her to be quiet. He reminded her that members of her team had died and that she was lucky he wasn't punishing her more severely. He said they were hunters, and now the rest of the guild had to clean up their mess. Nara wondered how they could treat her that way and how he planned to find new hunters without Hyon. Baekdeok lit a cigarette, muttering to himself why it couldn't have been Choi who had died instead of her boyfriend Hyon. His anger boiled over until suddenly Choi stepped toward him, striking him in his most vulnerable spot in front of everyone, making him collapse and scream for help. Like a YouTuber doing a gone wrong prank video. She told him calmly to relax, assuring him he would live, and mocked him by asking why. If funds were so low and hunters so few, he didn't head into the dungeons himself. Baekdeok, though in pain, wondered if Choin had lost her mind and if she was now revealing her true identity and nature after Hyun's absence. Choin laughed, questioning if he thought she had gone mad as well, and remarked that he truly was like his nephew. She added that selfishness and delusion clearly ran in their family, thanked him for letting her laugh, and admitted she was not in her right mind since something inside her had snapped after she had died instead of his perfect little nephew. Baekdeok wondered what she meant by that. She told him he had heard her correctly, said she was finished with Hyun, and warned him never to speak that name again. She then stood up, revealing that she was leaving the guild. Baekdeok was shocked, insisting that she would not do something like that, but she reminded him that he should treat her better while she was still working for him. She added that if he wanted her to tickle him in the same spot again, he only had to leave a note with the small helper called the funeral, like leaving a delivery request on Swiggy, and she hoped he would give them a proper ritual. Baekdeok grew furious. Choi then came out with Nara, who thanked her for the help, though still worried about the hit Choi had given Baekdeok. Choi reassured her there was no need to worry, as he would be fine. When Choi arrived at Nara's house, she noticed a t-shirt and realized Nara was into a rock band. Nara explained she had simply bought it from a random shop. Choi praised the shirt, wishing she could have something like it as well, and mentioned that Hyun had never allowed her to dress like that. Nara wondered why it mattered anymore, since Hyun was already dead, like someone still arguing about their ex's Netflix password long after the breakup. Choi grew excited, lay down on the bed, and revealed that she had killed Hyun. Nara was shocked and wondered what had happened to her. They sat down together, and Nara asked why Choi had suddenly wanted to come to her house when she already had her own place. Choi then asked if she could stay there for a while, since she had been living with Hyun and did not want to return. Nara, though confused, agreed and admitted she had also left the guild with Choi because it felt wrong to stay after everything that had happened. She asked if Choi had anywhere else to go. Choi thought about a new guild but admitted she had no idea yet. Nara wondered how they would manage expenses. Choi revealed that she had saved 20 million gold in her account, which would sustain her for now. Nara was shocked, questioning if that was all she had left, since Hyun used to boast about covering her rent and living expenses. Choi denied it, explaining that Hyun had only paid the deposit, while the rest had always been split evenly between them, basically proving he was the kind of guy who'd post provider memes online while splitting the bill 50-50. Nara was shocked and wondered why Choi had no plan, questioning if she intended to live with her long term. She thought to herself that she would not allow that to happen, then asked what they should do next and whether Choi would look for a job or a new place. Choi replied that she did not feel like doing anything since she had already done everything she wanted and admitted she had no idea what she was supposed to do next. Nara asked what exactly she had accomplished. Choi answered that she had hunted them all down and killed them. Nara was stunned to hear such a confession and once again thanked her for sparing her. Choi remarked that the look on Nara's face was truly priceless. A moment later, Choi's stomach growled, and Nara asked if she was hungry. They both realized they had not eaten anything all day, so Nara asked what she wanted to eat. Choi said she was fine with anything, though she was not used to eating so late, and mentioned that Hyun had often told her not to gain weight. Nara felt deeply offended by that. Choi then wondered aloud why Nara worked so hard, pointing out that no one was ever going to get angry on her behalf. Nara decided to order food online, and during their conversation, Choi suggested getting braised pig feet. Afterward, Choi lay down on the bed to sleep, while Nara rested on the mattress on the floor. Yet Choi could not fall asleep. She kept wondering what she truly wanted to do, realizing it had been a long time since she had asked herself that question. She knew she did not want to step into another dungeon or get tied to another guild. All she wanted was a break, with the hope of finding an easy job that would let her live a comfortable life. Basically the fantasy MMO version of work from home, 4 hours a day, passive income. To her, that sounded like a solid plan. Suddenly, she felt something unusual and woke up, wondering what it was, only to realize the sensation was coming from her stomach. Choi felt as if something was moving inside her and wondered if it was because of the ring. She tried to remove it, but a screen appeared, stating that it could not be taken off once equipped. Startled, she insisted that this could not mean she was truly unable to remove it, especially since it was already causing her back pain. Despite repeated attempts, she failed each time. After a while, she sensed that the ring itself was resisting her efforts, as if it were preventing her from taking it off. Then new lines appeared on the screen, declaring that she could not die until the hatching was complete. Confused, she wondered what was supposed to hatch, perhaps a monster inside her. Great, she thought, as if she'd just signed up for a Netflix family plan and found out it came with actual demons. She thought that even if it had saved her life, it did not mean she could trust it. She told herself to simply assume that it would continue protecting her for now. She thought she had to find a way to free herself from the ring, but first she needed to figure out exactly what it was. Taking it for analysis was impossible. If anyone discovered it, it would become a nightmare, so she resolved to check all the records by herself. As she sat through the night, morning came, and she realized there would be no rest for her after all.